Do I respect them?
Do you respect the men that are your customers?
From a human perspective, I do. But as far as myself, no. Like
you wouldn't want them for partners?
God, no. They're disgusting. Like, I don't respect people who can't be like honest with themselves. Yeah, like it's one thing to lie to your wife and lie to your friends or whatever, but they're lying to themselves. So yeah, they're nasty. Like they're just I don't know. No, the clear answer is no.
Yeah, I sense that.
Back again for another video. On today's topic, we'll be talking about the high value simp. Yes, the high value simp. Now, that video you just watched was from a YouTube channel called the Soft White Underbelly. It hosts a lot of fringe topics and people that are not highlighted in society in regards to their personal experience with different types of genres of living. It goes from, fentanyl users to nudists to people who work in brothels, who own brothels, pimps, prostitutes, all types of things. Pretty much anything dealing with vice. It's like a version of Vlad TV, but it's more interpersonal. And the person, usually these people, for the most part, feel like they don't have anything to lose. And I'm pretty sure they're getting paid for the interview. But nonetheless, that video clip that you watched was of a woman who is a prostitute. She calls herself an escort though. But she's essentially a prostitute. But she was talking about how she views men and how she views the men that she deals with on that level. And as you can see, she doesn't value them at all. I mean, she said, yes, I value them as human beings, which is simply the base equivalency to saying that your human life is important because you actually exist. I mean, you can say that about anybody. But interpersonally, she views them as scum. And why am I bringing this up? Because it's in context to what I plan on talking about here today. And that is, once again, the high value simp. And the reason why I put it in the context like this is because that's what majority of the conversation is about when we're talking about so-called high value men. We're not talking about men of quality, men of moral, men of honor, men of discipline, men of plan and structure, men of spirituality. We're not talking about these things in these larger conversations in regards to the high value man. I made a video about that a long time ago, maybe I think it was last month or something like that. Do go check that out, because I explain what my degree of high value man is defined as. But nonetheless, the larger conversation is not that. The larger conversation is mainly about high value simps and what they want in women. See, the problem with that is because no matter what adjective you attach to a simp, he's still a simp. This is largely why a lot of these relationships end the way they do in regards to these so-called masters of the universe, quote unquote. And this is not a down to BGS or anything, or to any other platform, Pimp God, BGS, Ron Wills, any of those men who've mentioned these topics that I'm talking about here. This is not a down to them. They have their definitions, definitely, and they express them very much so. But I'm talking about the general consensus of what society views as such when we're talking about high value men. So when I say master of your universe, I'm talking very anecdotally in regards to what I see when I see these men that we praised in such a nebulous but indirect way. And once again, these are the women that most of these men deal with. And this is how these women view you. Because let's just face it, let's keep it all the way $150 here. We talk about high value men, but it's always within the context of what women desire. I mean, sure, we can talk about, yes, he needs to have this, he needs to have this, he needs to have that, he needs to have this type of character, whatever the case may be. But the end context of that explanation of what a man should be is the add-on of to get a woman, quote unquote, to get a woman, to get a certain type of woman. That is always the identifier for what a high value man is. At the end, it's kind of like an addition, it's always a woman added to this. But largely, this whole lens of what a high value man is seen through the lens of the gynocracy. That's what I think a lot of people are missing here, because they're no different than the bottom people as they are at the top. It's just that these things don't get publicized a lot of times. We are not in the same company with these men and these women who operate this way. But once again, I told you that channel, Soft White Underbelly, it deals with a lot of those men. Deals with a lot of those men. And once again, that woman that I played in the beginning, it displays how she views those men. So if we're going to use the lens of the gynocracy to define what a high value man is in the first place, and what a woman actually thinks about it, they boil down to nothing but simps. Because an actual high value man, an actual master of the universe, sees what the society labels as high value men and masters of the universe as simps. This is no differently than myself, how I see other men. I'm a dominant, and I see other men as simps. But other women, through the lens of the gynocracy, see them as, and the rest of society see them as good men, right? They see them as valuable men. They see them as what a man should be, right? But I see them as simps. This is no differently than what I'm expressing here in regards to what a high value man is and what a high value simp is. A high value man is going to necessarily see them as a simp. What society describes as a high value man. These are facts. Everybody knows this. Everybody should know this, should I say. But nonetheless, how does a high value simp exist? I think that's an important part of this discussion to be had. Well, he has an absorbent amount of money. He has networking connections. He has all these things, once again, that the gynocracy lists off as check, high value, check, high value, check, high value. The last check of that is if he bows to women. If he is willing to sell himself out for women. And we've seen this plenty of times. I mean, look at all these conversations that are being had about these so-called high value men. And once again, this isn't just my anecdotal definition of this. If you look around you, you'll see the same thing that I see. Tell me that I'm lying. Tell me that what you see is not what I see. And then we can have a conversation about it, definitely. But to my knowledge, these so-called high value men have more problems with women than I do. They have way more problems with women than I do. And I have 2 kids' mothers. I don't have any problems out of either one of them. No problems, none. They do exactly what I need them to do. That's what they do. If I say I want something done, they'll do it. That's just the way it is. That's how it's always been, But anyways, when it comes to, like I said, myself and how I view these men, this is what they are, because they essentially bow down to women. We see this with the entertainers. We see this with the basketball players. We see this with the moguls. We see this all the time. I mean, look at all of the look at all of the relationships. The latest thing is the baby, right? Him and this chick, right? And women are looking at her like she's stupid, but he had a kid with her, right? You know, he had a kid with what kind of chick from where? Not even in the same class. That mindset carried on from his earlier years when he didn't have that money into the latter years when he actually had the money. How you handle women definitely defines whether you're a simp or not. All right. How you handle women. I mean, because let's really think about it here. That whole word derived in relation to women. When a man, I don't know, when a man, let's say a man was sucky at poker. We don't call him a simp at poker. Mow his grass correctly. We don't call him a simp because he can't mow his grass correctly. You know, there are so many things that men do and fail at and that horrible at, you know, or they're doing it the wrong way. And we don't refer to them as simps in relation to those things. The only thing that we refer to men as simps as in relation to these things that we call them simps behind is their relationship to women and how they handle them. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm wrong once again. The high value simp is a man, once again, who has status. He has money. He has assets. He has network connections. A lot of these things are prevalent. But what makes him a simp is how he handles women. He is willing to pay for the snatch. He's a trick and a John. A lot of these men are, because that's exactly what's happening. They're tricking off their money. They're tricking off their assets. You know, they're tricking off their light. They're tricking off every single thing of it is. You know, that just because you don't necessarily see a man giving a woman an absorbent amount of money doesn't mean that he's not a trick. You can trick in more ways than one, right? I don't think men understand that. I've made plenty of videos talking about your light is the most valuable thing that you have. Men, you are the prize, etc. I made these videos. Go back and check them. So these are in context with what I'm saying here. I've already put it into the ether. It's there, right? So nothing I'm saying here should be new to any of my current listeners. But to you new people who may come in and hear this, oh yes, definitely go check those videos out to give yourself a better context of what I'm talking about here. But nonetheless, you can trick off more than just your money. You can trick off your time. You can trick off your self-worth, because self-worth for a woman is very different than self-worth for a man. A lot of times this goes into what I talked about yesterday in regards to how women are reactive and men are active in their natures. Self-worth is just the same. Women base their self-worth off of what has happened. Men base their self-worth off of what's going to happen, right? Same thing, same concept. That sounds like a good video. I always have a video inside of my videos. But anyways, so your self-worth is very different than what a woman defines her self-worth as. You know, a woman defines her self-worth based off of expectations that have been a creation or a response to what the past is. Men define their self-worth based off of what trajectory they're on, what direction they want their life to be in. It isn't based upon, it's not necessarily put in contrast to an environment, space, situation, or anything. It's just the essence within them that causes them to push forward further than they have ever been before. This is a new pioneer, right? This is a new enterprise. You know, that's how men operate. But you can trick off your self-worth. Definitely. You can trick off your self-worth and, you know, for instance, accepting behavior that you should not. A lot of these so-called high-value men, aka high-value simps, do. They accept a lot of disrespect that they shouldn't accept. And a lot of people would be like, well, how? why would a man with so much money put up with a woman like that? That it was disrespectful, that was, all these things that we talk about here in the manosphere. Why would he put up with something like that? Well, because once again, he's a simp. Just because you add these things to a simp doesn't make him any more or less of a simp than he already was. That's not how it's going to work here. That's not how it happens. He's still a simp. That's the reason why he puts up with these things. I mean, I've talked about the whole idea that women are looking for your discipline. They're looking for your leadership. They're looking for your guidance. They're looking for all these things that are the attributes of success. But they look at success as being the identifier for those things. But they recognize a simp when they come across one. This is the reason why Brittany Renner is in the position that she's in. She recognizes the simps, and best believe that probably a lot of men that continue to deal with her in the way that she benefited more than they did, they probably were simps too. Because they were tricking off their time for a little bit of that stanky thing, you know what I'm saying? Right. Because that's essentially what a simp operates off of. He operates off of the provision of pussy. That's just the facts of it. How else can I put it? Also, the intangible things that a woman offers, such as the validation. Remember, I was telling you, black men, validate yourself. You don't need anyone else to validate yourself or to give you acceptance in order for you to exist as valuable. I made that video as well. Once again, I talk about all these things that accumulate into an idea about how one should see themselves in the world, simply upping your consciousness. That's what I'm here to do. That's what many of the men are here to do. We're here to make you more aware of the things that you do not see and the things that you do not consider. And this is one of them. I'm so sick of all this talk about high value men. Just want to throw up sometimes, because it's inaccurate. It's still seen through the lens of the gynocracy. That's just the facts of it, because there are still nothing but pawns that feed into the whole idea of notion that women should be over men. They should be disrespectful. They should be inconsiderate. They should be non-empathetic. All these things that they continue to be in the face of such quote unquote high value men, aka high valued simps. But what can be done? What can be done? I say that we need to redefine them exactly as they are. We need to define these men for how they exist. Just because he has millions of dollars does not exclude him from being considered a simp. We see this all the time. I'm not going to point no fingers. I'm not going to say no names, but you know the individuals that I'm talking about. They're not excluded from this. Just because they have money, just because the women are all over them, we know why they're all over them. Because women are very vain in their existence. They only seek provision for themselves, not even for children anymore. We know why they're all over them and why they praise them as such men of high value. Because let's face it, even this talk about what these other women who have a lot of money are necessarily, once again, that doesn't make them high value either. And we don't even consider them that. We don't say that this is a high value woman. We consider, as men, we consider high value women are as being submissive and cooperative and supportive. That's what we consider high value, and the least amount of liability and dysfunction. We consider those to be high value women. This is the reason why I made the video, Black Women, what you bring to the table does not matter to men if he cannot be over it, if it is not in submission to him. Same thing, no different concepts here. But just because women consider this man high value, you can probably assume that he's probably a simp. I mean, because that's what the gynocracy does. They prop up, they put up position the men who they believe are going to support the narrative that this is what men should be, but in reality, it's nothing but a simp. Because that's the whole idea, especially in the black community, is that they want to continue to push the narrative that men should be lesser than what they are. So when you see the community pushing someone, you can automatically assume that they're a simp. You know, that's just what you can assume about it. I mean, we should know this though. You know, I don't want to be preaching to the choir, of course, but nonetheless, high value simps are more in abundance than actual high value men are. They're more in abundance because the society is what defines them as being high value in the first place, but they define themselves as simps, regardless of how they tell people they exist. We see what they are. We know what they are. They're more in abundance. This is no different than the saturation of actual simps versus actual valuable men. You know, the true men that I talk about. We know that actual simps are more in saturation than actual true men are. You know, men of quality. We know this. So more than likely, if a man is being sought after and seen as a high value man, he's probably a high value simp. Let's just keep that real. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been the Wolf Invader Clothes. May you have a good day. And of course, peace be with you.